Hi, everybody. This is Tasha Drew, and I'm here to go over the intro to the Code of Conduct Committee. As a member of the Code of Conduct Committee, we realized a lot of people don't know that Kubernetes has a Code of Conduct Committee. Obviously, we do put the Code of Conduct front and center in everything that the community does, and ask everybody to abide by it, read it, understand it, as they're participating in the community. But we realize a lot of people don't realize there is a group of people who work on enforcing the code of conduct and providing basic steering of how the code of conduct is applied. So we thought it would make a lot of sense for us to just say hello to the community, kind of let you know what we're up to, and also where you can get more resources for kind of understanding the code of conduct and the Kubernetes community. So what is the code of conduct? At a high level, and I did include the link here for everyone who wants to go and read the whole thing. Just as a note, the code of conduct that we have adopted as part of the Kubernetes community is upstream and open sourced from the most widely accepted code of conduct framework in the technology industry, which is the Contributor Covenant. And I would really encourage people to check out that project as well. The code of conduct is deliberately not a comprehensive set of laws with sort of a rigorous framework of what you should and shouldn't do. It's more of a set of behavior that all members of the Kubernetes community agree to abide by in order to make the upstream community a professional and safe environment for a diverse population of individuals. So as a really large open source community, we have a diverse range of individuals, and we want to make sure that we have a safe and professional environment that those people can do their best work in. And that's really what we're focused on as a code of conduct committee and as a community. The members of the Code of Conduct Committee are elected by the steering committee. But we are independent of the steering committee and of the CNCF and of the Linux Foundation. And things were structured in that way to make sure that the Code of Conduct Committee is not beholden to political or company pressure. So we can really act in service to the community itself in ensuring that the community remains a safe and professional environment for people to code in and contribute to the upstream community. So why do we have a code of conduct? At the end of the day, it's very difficult for people to understand what framework they're being asked to behave as part of if we don't document it. So just in the same way that we document how to submit a pull request or how to appropriately test some code that you want contributed to the upstream community, we did the same thing with the code of conduct. So you can go, you can read it, you can try and understand, like, what are we really saying that we want to do when we say that Kubernetes should be a safe and professional environment for people to contribute in. And in it, by having a code of conduct, what we're doing is we're setting clear expectations of acceptable behavior. Our goals as a community are to be welcoming, inclusive, and professional. A lot of people who work on Kubernetes are doing so either to advance their day job or as part of their day job. And so we need to make sure that people can really do the work that they need to get done and have the impact that they need to make in order to be successful professionally in a professional and safe environment. So what does the committee do? The committee obviously does meet privately, since a lot of the things that we end up discussing are pretty sensitive, often regarding interpersonal disputes. And so what we're really looking to do when we are enforcing the code of conduct is a set of behaviors. We triage anything that gets submitted to us. So somebody submits a complaint, we have a triage process. We want to make sure that we are very responsive and timely in our response to any issues that are arising in the community, because a lot of times just having a timely response lets people know that we're here, we care, and then from that triage process, we're really looking to do a couple different things. When there is an interpersonal conflict or dispute, a lot of times what we're looking to do is coach. So sometimes somebody may have crossed a line that they weren't even thinking about, or they may not understand another person's perspective. So in a lot of ways, we're just looking to see what can we do to repair this in order to ensure that everyone's behaving professionally and that people really have the opportunity to learn and grow from any interactions that might be resulting in people not feeling that they can do their best work as part of the Code of Conduct Committee. So sometimes we are coaching. We also exhaustively research any of the complaints that are filed. So we will look at GitHub interactions and things that involve the project directly to see, is there a pattern of the behavior that's being reported? And then that also gives us concrete examples that we can use as we are coaching people in how they may need to amend their behavior in order to really make sure that the Kubernetes community is a safe and professional space for everybody. We also can get involved in mediation. So sometimes there may be an issue that arises that may stem from something outside of the real purview of the Code of Conduct Committee, for example, some sort of governance issue that then leads to some sort of interpersonal conflict because people are having feelings about what may have occurred. And so we do have a mediation capability. So if people are having a difficult time working together, if it was at your day job, you could have your bosses come in and have some sort of professional mediation. We don't really think of it as professional mediation, but that's really what's happening when your boss sits you and someone else down and it's like, how do we work together? So since this is an open source community, we have to think about, okay, how do we provide mediation between two people who may or may not work together? And so that is a lever that we can pull. So if people need help overcoming interpersonal conflict, we have this mediation capability that we can provide. And another thing that we do is we do enforce boundaries. So if somebody has a continual pattern of behavior that is harmful to other people, or if somebody has really done something egregious on various scales of egregiousness, we can enforce boundaries. And that may be explaining to the person that they are not going to be permitted to participate in the Kubernetes community for a bounded period of time, just to sort of reflect the seriousness of their actions, or it could be a permanent ban. But obviously, if we were to take those actions, it would be done in a very serious and thoughtful manner with consideration for how it impacts all parties. But at the end of the day, what we're looking to do as a Code of Conduct Committee is do our part in enforcing boundaries so that we're creating a professional space in which community members can be productive. And people can't do their best work if they feel that they're constantly under threat or being attacked. And so in that way, we do have different levers to pull if we need to in moving people out of the community who are making it unsafe for others. So why do we have a Code of Conduct Committee at all? And the reason is the role of the Code of Conduct Committee is, in its simplest form, to enforce the Code of Conduct. We have a Code of Conduct. The CNCF itself also has a Code of Conduct, and we share the same Code of Conduct. But because the Kubernetes community is so large, we need a dedicated committee to really make sure that everything is being enforced, that issues are being heard, that people are responded to. Because if we don't have people actively staffing this role, we're sending a false message of safety to people who may be joining us expecting that people are keep tracking to these professional standards that we have communicated through our Code of Conduct. So having an unenforced Code of Conduct can send a false message of safety to marginalized people. And so it's important when you do adopt a Code of Conduct that you are also committing to having people staff that Code of Conduct, enforce that Code of Conduct, and be an avenue for people who are under threat to use in order to make sure that they can be active in a professionally behaving environment, and that they can do their best work in. There are a lot of myths around code of conduct, and so I thought I would just address some of those kind of for fun. I would like to give all of the credit to these FAQs to the contributor covenant, which you can check out at their website, contributor-covenant.org. But they really compiled a list of questions of things that people are sometimes afraid of when they hear of code of conduct committees or code of conduct in open source. So they have a bunch of really great questions and very thoughtful answers. And I've borrowed some of those, but if you'd like to see like a full list of things you may be wondering about, I would really recommend their website. And I did include the link to their website at the end of this deck. But one question is, doesn't the code of conduct just promote political correctness? And the answer to that is political correctness is a very loaded term, but if you define political correctness as the belief that women, non-binary people, gay, lesbian, queer, and or transgender people, people of color, and people of different religious backgrounds should be afforded the same rights and privileges as everyone else. If you define it that way, then yes, the code of conduct does promote political correctness. However, I think at the end of the day, everyone knows that promoting equality, promoting a safe space where all of the different people who have a lot of value to bring to the Kubernetes community is the right thing to do. And we're certainly not here to push any sort of political agenda. One question that I thought was really interesting that people ask a lot is about power to project maintainers. And I think this is a really good thing to kind of dive into, because people often ask, doesn't a code of conduct give too much power to project maintainers? And the answer to this is kind of like unpeeling an onion, but has a bunch of layers. The project maintainers usually have a lot of power in open source communities regardless, because they have the ability to accept pull requests, deny pull requests, and so they're the gatekeepers to the technical aspects of the community. And so they're already pretty powerful. They're already very connected. Having a code of conduct and a code of conduct committee actually starts to put brakes around the amount of power those people have around how other people are treated. So, project maintainers are the arbiters of code, and so are code, and they are also the unquestioned leaders of the projects they own. If you don't have a code of conduct, a maintainer has the power to eject anyone for any reason or no reason. Maybe they just don't like you. However, when you have a codified code of conduct, then people who want to contribute do have an avenue to ask to be treated in a respectful way if they're not being treated in a respectful way. And it also gives maintainers a sort of framework for looking at to make sure that they themselves are behaving in accordance with their stated values, which are documented in the code of conduct. One way to think about this is that if you are a maintainer of a really popular open source platform like Kubernetes, you have a lot of power. And you also are probably pretty busy, and you have a day job and you're doing 17 different things at once. And so you may not realize that sometimes a brusque or no answer to sincere questions can really harm people as they attempt to interact with your project who don't have the context that you do, or are just looking for something that may not be top of your priority list. And so in those interactions, having a code of conduct committee that can come in and say, hey, let's look at the overall holistic behavior on these, provide a little coaching, provide a little mentorship, can actually be very valuable and improve the experience for both the maintainers and the contributors, just because we all get sort of focused on our day-to-day activities and may miss the fact that we're starting to get into a pattern of behavior due to just being overwhelmed or whatever, that is actually not healthy for the community. So think of the Code of Conduct Committee and the fact that we are independent and that we stand apart from the overall steering committee as really a strength, because it means that we can have perspective on both the maintainers and the contributors, and also provide coaching where needed, regardless of how powerful the person in question is. Let's see. We also have a question. The code of conduct explicitly lists a set of protected classes. Does that make it acceptable to discriminate or make others feel unwelcome if they are not in a protected class? And the answer to this is absolutely not. The contributor covenant and the Kubernetes code of conduct explicitly lists protected classes for many reasons, such as reminding people to give them appropriate consideration and assuring people in those classes that they are welcome in our community, which they absolutely are. However, it is not an invitation for people to seek loopholes or to discriminate against people who are not explicitly listed or make them feel unwelcome based on other criteria that's not listed in the code of conduct. There is, of course, the caveat that those who discriminate or make others feel unwelcome are themselves not welcome in our community. We do have some questions about people. So people are always worried, oh, what if I get reported to the Code of Conduct Committee? And I would say, you know, always enter into interactions with good intent and with empathy, and this is very unlikely going to be an issue for you. However, if you just to kind of identify that people do get worried, oh, what if I get accused of violating the code of conduct? What should I expect? What should happen? What we would recommend, and what also the contributor covenant recommends, is if you are informed, and you would be informed by the Code of Conduct Committee, hey, you know, we have this complaint against you, we are researching it. And the first thing is to just deal with it in a professional manner. Deal with it in the same way where if you were at work and a coworker gave you feedback that you had somehow not been working with them as well as you could have been, the best thing to do is just take a pause, listen to the feedback, do not attack them, do not be sarcastic, you know, just kind of take a pause. Listen to the facts or the information that's being communicated to you. Work to understand how you may have not responded in the best possible way and any damage you may have caused another person, and try to treat it as a learning opportunity. None of us are perfect. None of us are born knowing how to behave in most situations based on my toddler's behavior. But, you know, just think we can all inadvertently cause harm, and we can all be under a lot of stress and cause harm, maybe less inadvertently. But if you just stick to the facts, listen to the information, be open to personal growth, and just learning how other person's perspective may give you the opportunity to grow. You know, demonstrate your willingness to work with the team as they understand what's going on. That will go a long way. Obviously, it really depends on the egregiousness of the action, but if you are entering into something in good faith and not intending to hurt anybody, just participate openly. Don't attack anybody, you know, just kind of treat it as a learning experience, and trust the project maintainers to act in a fair and just manner. So that's what we would recommend. So then another question is, won't a code of conduct have a negative effect on the end product? And the data-driven answer there is that there is zero evidence that adopting a code of conduct has a negative effect on code quality. It will affect the experience of those who participate in communities where a code of conduct is enforced. Ensuring that more people feel safe contributing to a project can significantly improve the quality of the code base. And that's for many reasons. Having a code of conduct and having a professional behaving community that really values being polite to each other and being kind to each other grows the number of people who will feel safe engaging with that community and providing their time and their contributions to that community. Additionally, the code of conduct gives everyone the same framework for which to base their actions around. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of interactions. We all know what's expected of us. We're all building the positive, kind community that we wish to be a part of, and it's healthier for everybody. Nobody likes being in a toxic environment, and a toxic environment is very draining on everyone who's part of it, whether or not they're part of a marginalized community within that toxic environment. So by ensuring that we continually invest in having an empathetic, professional, and kind community, we're improving the ability of all members of it to continually contribute to it in a meaningful and impactful way. Finally, we have, why should my community have to change to accommodate marginalized people? Obviously, part of the answer here is that the Kubernetes community has always wanted to accommodate marginalized people, and we're just trying to be more organized and more thoughtful about how we do that as part of our code of conduct and as part of our community outreach. But the more broad answer is that the level of accommodation that the code of conduct implies is not higher than the one that is expected when dealing with peers in other professional settings. So with the code of conduct, we're not trying to be more accommodating to one group. We're trying to make all contributors feel welcome and safe. So why do we have a committee? Let's see, yeah, here we go. So Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, so the Kubernetes community has taken the public stance of making sure that everyone who comes to kubernetes.io is aware that the Kubernetes community is in complete support of the Black Lives Matter movement. We stand in solidarity with the Black community, and racism is unacceptable. Racism conflicts with the core values of the Kubernetes project, and our community does not tolerate racism. To just go a little further, this statement on the Kubernetes main page is reflective of our values as a project. The Code of Conduct Committee would invite anyone who is confused about this statement or who has perhaps received misinformation about why Black Lives Matter is an entirely appropriate and important thing for all of us to be able to say, to really invest in personal inquiry and research on why you would want to deflect a statement specific to Black lives. When people deflect a statement specific to Black lives back towards everyone, including yourself, this is a common way of further discounting the experience of Black people. Stating that Black lives matter in no way insinuates that other lives do not matter. So if this statement is somehow making you have a negative emotional reaction, we do encourage you to take the opportunity to learn more about the Black Lives Matter movement and why the Kubernetes community leadership is compelled to make a clear and unambiguous statement on it. A quick word about intersectionality. I think a lot of people may not have heard of intersectionality. Maybe everyone attending this kind of talk has. I'm certainly not someone who could give a great talk on this. I think it's a very nuanced and very important field of research. But I did want to kind of call this out because I think it's a good learning opportunity for everyone to kind of understand what intersectional theory is, and why it's important to sort of have this empathy for people who are different in different ways. So I did include some links for people who'd like to learn more about intersectionality. As you can see from the definition here, what intersectional theory is about is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or group. And this can be regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. And so through an awareness of intersectionality, we can better acknowledge and ground the differences among us. Sort of what we're looking to do here is encourage everyone to have empathy and be polite in your interactions in our community and be secure in your ability to expect the same from others. So what more can we do in the Kubernetes community and as the Code of Conduct Committee? So the Code of Conduct Committee is pretty focused on we enforce the Code of Conduct, we own the Code of Conduct, but as a community, codifying correct behavior and building out group norms is really just the first step to all of the things we can achieve when we are successful in our mission to create this professional, safe space for people to do their best work. One thing that we can do as we successfully onboard new contributors from a wide range of diverse backgrounds is that we can increase the ability of the Kubernetes project to onboard new contributors. So if new people start coming in from all sorts of different backgrounds and all sorts of different areas, we can start having a more diverse range of skill sets and capabilities that we haven't seen before. Some examples are, while a lot of people think of the Kubernetes community and immediately think of systems level Go programming, we also need docs writers. We also need UX designers. We need UI designers and builders. We have all of these different facets and capabilities that the Kubernetes project can benefit from. And as we make sure that we are providing a safe professional environment for everyone to be productive in and everyone to do their best work in, we're seeing more and more people who aren't systems level Go programmers also onboard into the project and also be successful. And I think that that's a really great sign. As a couple examples, we had a group of product managers who came in and started really running a product management group for a long time in Kubernetes. We have SIG usability that's recently stood up. We have SIG UI. And then we have program managers and project managers who are and release managers who are keeping the Kubernetes releases stable and on time and super well organized. So all of those things are necessary, and all of us working together to be super productive and super proactive only makes the community stronger. Additionally, we have been, as a community, starting to invest in asking all leaders of the community to take the same training so that we're all coming from the same place of informed empathy. So, for example, recently the steering committee asked all of the chairs and tech leads in the Kubernetes community to take unconscious bias training. And I did include the link to that at the end of this presentation. It's a Linux Foundation course on it's really speaker training, so you can learn to make sure that anything that you're providing to as part of a presentation that you're giving is inclusive speaker training. And we also, as the Code of Conduct Committee, take enforcement training. So enforcement training sounds pretty harsh, but it's basically this idea of how do you approach a situation in which the Code of Conduct is being reported as being violated in a way that tries to lead towards community healing. So I think it's very valuable. So here are the additional resources I promised to include. So at the top, you can see we have the Code of Conduct. We have it listed on the website and the code itself if you want to go read it. The Contributor Covenant, which is that upstream community that maintains the Code of Conduct that we then use in our projects. Then we have a link to the inclusive speaker orientation, which I really recommend, even if you're not giving a talk. I think it's great inclusivity training. And then we have some information about intersectionality for those who haven't heard about it or want to learn more. The top one is just a 5-minute video clip. And then the bottom one is a TED Talk that Kimberly Crenshaw gave. That's a really awesome overview about intersectionality and why it's so important. So that wraps up my material for today. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And yeah, have a great day. Cool. Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending this talk today. I think we went over a lot of really good material. If you have any questions, I'll be in the Slack channel. And as always, if you ever need to escalate anything to the attention of the Code of Conduct Committee, please do so. We are always there and ready to listen to any problems you may be encountering. So thanks. Have a great day and talk to you soon.